Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we're going to be taking my Honda GROM out for a top speed run, and I'm going to see if I can break 100 miles an hour with it. This bike, my green GROM here, has been built up. I put a Koso 170cc kit in here with a ported Koso 4-valve head and a Katako forged crankshaft. I ran that setup for about 1,000 miles. And I got a indicated speed on the cluster of 101, but I think GPS speed was more so around 90, 91, something like that. I never got any of that on camera, but since then I have actually built the bike up with a bigger cylinder from Mo Power, Mike O'Connell. He has been a great help with building up this bike and just giving me pointers and stuff with me forgetting how to put the engine back together with little pieces and stuff. He's been a great help, great prices, and a great guy to deal with. But I have been running this 223 now for probably about 150, 200 miles, and it's got a ton of power. It's got a ton of torque, and it rips. So I'm going to be taking it out for a top speed run, but also, I wanted to mention that when we did this bigger cylinder, it's a 223cc bike now, so the bore is a lot bigger. I actually had to send the cases to Mike, and he machined the case outs to fit the bigger cylinder, and he bored the Katako forged connecting rod for the larger wrist pin on this piston. When you do that, it does make the rod a little bit weaker, so they don't sustain RPM as well. And I found that out today. So I'm going to show you the clips here of what we ended up doing with the bike today for top speed and just ripping it. But you can see there's oil all over the bike. I'm thankful to be okay, but it did grenade. So I'm going to show you the runs that I did on the bike today, and then we'll pick up here in a second when I'm going to be taking this thing back apart. So first attempt, I think we hit 93 on the GPS and like 97 or 98 on the speedo. That's with 1535 gearing. I'm gonna try 1635 gearing because I was tapped at like 93, like it was out of gear. So I'm gonna try to gear it up a tooth in the front and see if we can hit that 100. Ooh, she's tight. She's tight. Oh boy. Holy fuck. Yeah, that's a window. All right, so as you can see, the bike did clock in a speed of like 98 or so on the cluster, and I think we ran 94 or 96 on the GPS. So definitely very fast. These bikes definitely are kind of sketchy going that fast because they are a 12-inch wheel and there's no steering damper, anything like that. The wind kind of shakes you around a little bit. So it definitely, I don't know how much more top speed stuff I'm going to be doing just because it's not really worth it on such a small bike. I like getting 0 to 60 really fast and hanging the tire up in the air and shit like that. That's fun. But this was definitely just an attempt to see how this motor would hold up. And I think it would have had no failures, no issues at all if you weren't doing sustained 12,000 RPM rips for, you know, a mile or whatever. I was definitely in it to win it with this thing, and it was very high RPM for a sustained amount of time, which, you know, these little GROM engines, they do tend to vibrate and shake around a little bit. I mean, stock, the rev limiter is like 9 grand or 9,200, and I'm spinning this thing 12,500 RPM now. With the Koso 170, didn't have the issue, but the rod was also a little bit bigger. It wasn't machined out at that point. So I think machining the rod definitely weakens it a little bit. So if you're going to be doing a build like this with a Katako rod and a bored Katako rod, definitely just don't be sustaining super high RPM for extended periods of time. You know, just kind of do quick bursts or keep it under 11 grand. Mike told me that typically they like to keep them below 11,000, 11,500 if you're going to be sustaining RPM for a while. You can run it to 12, 12 and a half, but don't be holding it at 12 and a half, if that makes sense. So, like I said, I didn't really have the issues with the 170 build, but obviously when you go bigger, stuff breaks and parts just get a little bit weaker when you're stressing them harder. So it's just something that we got to learn from and go from here, figure out what we want to do from here. Also, I did kind of want to add quick about the check engine light on the bike. At high RPM, after I sustained high RPM for a while, it would throw that injector overuse code on the A-Racer ECU. And I have the biggest injector I know of in the bike. It's a decapped stock Honda GROM injector. And when I flowed it compared to a PCX 150 or the Key in 10 hole, it flowed like 40% more. And I put that in there, and the bike never had issues with the 170 after I did the decapped injector. But now with the even bigger 223 engine, it started to throw that code again. And the first attempt I did on the bike where it ran 98 mile an hour or whatever on the Speedo, it threw that code, and I'm like, fuck, maybe I should splash a little pump gas in this thing to help give it more fuel, because obviously ethanol requires more fuel. The bike is running on E85, by the way, if you guys didn't know. So I said, all right, I'll put a 70-30 mix in the tank, and I'll try pump gas 30%, E85 70%, which in theory should have probably given me about 10 to 20% more fueling, which I figured should have been enough, and ran it after that, and then, you know, obviously it broke. So there's a lot of different variables here of why it could have broke. Obviously, me being an idiot and running it way too hard for way too long, but I was just giving her. Definitely learning from my mistakes here, and hopefully the next motor we put together is going to be faster and more reliable. But I'm gonna get back to the video here. I just wanted to tell you about the injector overuse code. The bike still has the stock fuel line, which they do sell an upgraded, bigger fuel line that I plan on running. And then I want to do like my own fuel system on the thing so it never runs out of fuel. Because I think when it did break, if you guys listened to the video, it did sound like it detonated a little bit right before it let go. And I think it was probably because it was lean. And when I had 100% E85 in it, even though it was lean, it wouldn't rattle because the ethanol soaks it up. But with that little bit of pump gas in there, it was probably enough to let it rattle, and it only takes one time and they let go. So like I said, learning from here, we're gonna grow bigger and better. Not a lot of Groms out there doing 100 miles an hour, truthfully 100 miles an hour. Also, I am considering going with a Fuel Tech like FT450 on the bike, because I'll have way more tunability with the Fuel Tech, and if I ever want to put a turbo on the bike, I'll be able to run a map sensor and have nitrous controller or whatever I want to do with the thing after I get the new engine together. I'm considering going Fuel Tech because A, I've never used Fuel Tech and it'd kind of be cool to try it out, and B, I could spend 3/4 of the money of a Fuel Tech on the better A-Racer ECU and have half of the capabilities of a Fuel Tech. So considering going that route, a lot of stuff to think about here going forward. But yeah, so I just wanted to add that, you know, considering possibly going with a Fuel Tech. Yeah, let's keep going with the video here. So I'm gonna get this motor out of this bike and maybe walk you guys through what I do to pull the motor out, and yeah, we're gonna go from there. So I'm gonna get the thing locked or put into the stand here and we'll get the chain off, get the shifter off, get some of the body panels off of it, and then yeah, so I'm gonna get to it. Alright, so I got the body panels off for the most part. Enough to get the engine out at least. So I'm going to start by probably getting the exhaust off, a little bolt up here on the rear set, and then 2 bolts up on the head, and then the O2 sensor for the A-Racer, my ECU. It's got a wideband right down there. Got to take my throttle cable off up here, off of the rev wedge. I got this from GROM Fathers. I got this whole intake setup and stuff from him, and I'm not really very happy with it because the injector placement is really kind of crappy in my opinion. It shoots the fuel like that way, like it shoots it at the wall of the intake, and then it, you know, has to trickle down or rely on velocity to pull the fuel in. And I've always had an issue with this bike running at like low throttle or quarter throttle or so. It would always spit and pop and bang like it was lean all the time. No matter what I did to fueling, I could change. I've tried pump gas, E85, race gas, air fuel all the way from 11 to 15, everything, and I could never get that popping out of it. And I've been told by a couple guys that this rev wedge style intake manifold isn't really that great. So probably just gonna sell it and then upgrade to something that Mike can make me. He's probably just gonna build me probably something like a Koso 40mm setup with the Koso intake manifold. If you guys look on a stock GROM throttle body setup, the injector placement is like this. It shoots the injector straight down into the motor instead of shooting it sideways at the intake. So I think that's part of the reason why the bike was kind of stumbly, especially at light throttle, and maybe part of the reason why I could never keep fuel in it. It always kind of ran out of fuel way up top. So I don't know if that's part of the reason why it broke, but who knows. And it's just tricky to get a lot of this stuff to fit. Like I have to bend my sensors and stuff to get it to fit, and a lot of the wiring like rests on the head because of the way that the intake is placed like this. And I couldn't ever run a filter on it because there was no way I could fit anything with the fairing on. with the side plastics and stuff on, there was no way for me to fit anything off of this. So I just ran it wide open. I was gonna get maybe a velocity stack or something. He sent me an intake, like a rubber silicone boot, and I tried to fit it in 100 different ways and nothing fit. So gonna go with a different intake setup. Hopefully the cylinder head is okay on this. I really hope it is, because this is probably one of the more expensive pieces on the bike. Mike already told me he's got a set of cases I can buy, and hopefully the transmission's okay, because it doesn't shift at all. So anyways, let's get the rest of this torn apart. Get the temp sensor off of the head here. Get the rest of this wiring up out of the way. Get the throttle cable off, chain, motor mount bolts, starter wiring, fuel injector. Yeah, so let's get to it. I'm gonna quit blabbing. Let's get this motor out. Alright, she's out. Figured there'd be more metal chunks laying around. I even went and looked where the bike blew up on that road, and I couldn't find any chunks laying around anywhere or nothing. But yeah, so here she is on the bench. I'm gonna start by taking the rev wedge off, the starter, and probably the cylinder head. Maybe this flywheel cover too. Get that stuff off right away, check out the timing chain. It's probably all garbage, but we'll find out here in a minute. I'm not too happy about this. I already found out when I was in the bike that my Katako clutch cover's cracked. So that sucks, because those clutch covers aren't exactly cheap. And building these bikes in general isn't really cheap. The parts aren't cheap. So yeah, I don't know, a lot of people probably ask me why build a GROM? They're stupid. Why? Just get a bigger bike. But I don't know, they're just really fun. And if you don't have one, you can't really relate. So it's not, I don't know, they hit different. You know, they're just, they're almost therapeutic to me. I like working on them, and I love riding them. They're a ton of fun. I don't know what else to say. So if it costs more money to fix this, it is what it is. Alright, so I got the rev wedge off, I got the stator cover off, and I'm really hoping I can save something out of this engine. I mean, even the transmission shifter is cocked. The case is busted down here as well. This whole case would have just completely shit out if I did not have this hard racing engine brace. So this is a brace that I put on the bike a while ago from Hard Racing. It's like an extra engine mount. So I think if that had not have been there, this probably would have been a lot worse, as in like the case damage. So I'm hoping maybe the transmission's going to be okay, but at this point I'm not looking too highly of that. All right, so next I'm going to pull the starter gear if it comes out. Yeah. So there's this little pin and washer. Whenever I do rebuild this thing again, I'm probably going to do some more detailed engine building videos for these bikes, because I've done it a couple times now, so I'm kind of confident and able to talk about it on camera. So next I'll pull the flywheel. And you need a special puller for these flywheels. I'll have to grab that quick. Just threads on. Looks like this. It's got a threaded piece here and then a pusher bolt. We'll probably be able to see quite a bit once I get this flywheel off. This stuff all looks alright. It's a one-way clutch. Flywheel here. The timing chain's intact. So this spins one direction but not the other. That all spins good yet, so we could probably reuse that. Believe it or not, I've been running the stock timing tensioner, the rubber ones, because I've been having issues on both my bikes. Both my bikes had issues with the timing tensioner from Koso. It's like a sprocket deal. I'll show you a new one over here. So this is the Koso timing gear that I was running in this bike for the first like 800 miles or so, and I just caught it in time because this was all wore out and there was a ton of play in it and it was sending metal through the motor, and I caught it. Same thing with the bottom one. They just, I don't know, the metal on the chain I just don't really agree with, I guess. But these, a lot of guys say you can't run these rubber ones, but I've been running them for like 200 miles now, 200 hard miles, just to test this out to see if there'd be any wear on them. I also am running the chain a little bit looser than I was with the 170 setup, and there's no wear on these timing gears. So I think it's all in the tension of the chain. If you have it tensioned properly, not too tight, I think you could run the rubber ones and be all right, but time will tell. So this all looks fine. Probably pull out the timing gears and stuff quick. And I really want to pull the head. So actually we'll pull the head first because I really want to see if the cylinder head is going to be all right. But to do that, I got to pull the chain. So I guess we'll pull the chain first. That's too big. Yeah, no visible wear at all. That's cool. Maybe I'll throw in that clip of, I took a picture of that Koso stuff when it was wore out. I might throw that picture in here just to show you what I was talking about with that stuff. This is an example too. This is the lower bolt. I got to get a replacement lower bolt because this lower timing gear bolt is wore out. So it wasn't wore out bad enough for me to not run it, but it is wore. So I'll probably get a new one of those as well. So now we got to take the cam cover off up top. There we go. Got my vented cam cover off. Now I gotta pop the cam gear. And the cam. So we get the chain off. There we go, cam gear's off. Gotta take this bolt out in the center of the cylinder to get the chain all the way out. Typically there's another gear, a timing gear in here, but I didn't run one on this motor. Timing chain looks really good. Could probably reuse this, maybe. So this bearing goes in the flywheel here. Put that back. All right, moment of truth. Let's pull the cylinder head. The head appears to be good. The valves are hung open right now, but the head does appear to be good. Which is cool, I suppose. Well, this exhaust gasket's really in here. Whew, at least I could save something. Put this cam gear back on and spin this thing over. I just put it back at top dead center to make sure that this is gonna be all right. Head actually looks pretty good, so thank Jesus on that. Head gasket looks fine, we could reuse that. Now this is gonna be, oh yeah, not even connected. There's one of the base gaskets, completely blown out on the bottom. I had to stack base gaskets on this motor to have the piston clear the cylinder. No fucking way. The piston and wrist pin are all intact. That's crazy. I'm gonna push this out quick, show you. Get it out of the cylinder. Honestly, this piston might be reusable. Come on. Wow. I mean, there's some metal in here. And it might have, oh no, it broke the skirt right here. Come on, focus, fucker. See where it broke the skirt? The rings are pretty tight too. Damn it. But the wrist pin, wow, I kind of figured the wrist pin would have broke with it. Or like, it would have broke the bottom of the piston off. But that didn't happen either. So that's kind of cool, actually. The cylinder, on the other hand, this is my billet cylinder. She's fucked. You can see right where the rod went through right here. Damn. All I see is dollar bills going kapoof. I don't know if the transmission's gonna be alright or not. I don't even know if I want to look. I'm pulling the head studs out of it right now. Alright guys, I just got the clutch cover off of the motor here. Now I'm taking the oil pump out. Taking the oil pump out and the clutch here. Yeah, the shifter rod is bent, it looks like. That's not sitting in there straight, unless it's just wedged with a piece from the carnage. That would be the best case scenario, I think. Alrighty guys, so I got the clutch off of the engine. Let's take a look at the oil screen here, see if we can find anything. Oh wow, looks mint, like it didn't even blow up. That's funny. So next I can definitely see that the shifter mechanism here is bent, like wedged one way. I hope that it's alright and it's just wedged with a piece of material somewhere. maybe, maybe not, I don't know. So these two spacers go with the clutch. I'm gonna get the rest of this apart and see how the tranny is. Alright guys, I got it all tore down. Damage actually isn't as bad as it could be. This is the case half with the crank still in it. The rod is broken up top, obviously. You can see mushroomed over pretty good. And it looks like the rod is tweaked a little bit too, like it bent a little, or like stretched and then busted. So, yeah, obviously, I need new cases and a new crank and rod and a new cylinder and piston. So that's kind of where we're at so far. I'm debating if this crank is still good or not, because it still spins real nice. If I just got a replacement rod for it, maybe I could run it in the blue bike over there with like a 170 kit or something kind of small. It does feel a little notchy. I don't know if that's just the bearings being full of shit or what, but all the bearings, honestly, they all spin pretty good. Surprisingly, for how much shit this thing went through. Yeah, so she's pretty tacoed. I gotta get this side off. There might be some crud in these bearings on this side. That's maybe why it feels kind of shitty. I don't know. I'm kind of hopeful on maybe reusing this crank. Maybe. I'm saying that with a heavy maybe. It might just be cheaper to get a whole nother crank. But I know they make replacement connecting rods for these crankshafts. So maybe I could get a replacement rod and run it on the other bike. Obviously the green bike here is gonna get some real big motor after this. I'm gonna go stupid on the next one and maybe take it easy on the top speed runs. But I do have faith in Mike O'Connell's parts. He already told me that he's been doing a ton of testing on a couple different parts. So maybe we could do something. Also, I think my clutch cover might not leak because it is cracked, but I don't think it leaks all the way through. Maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe I can reuse that. Maybe I can't. Here's the other side of the case. Can reuse my tensioner for the timing chain. And I was going to point something else out. Oh yeah, this is why it wouldn't shift. So that's supposed to be straight. It's not straight. A lot of the linkage and stuff for the shifter is kind of tweaked and bent. I don't know if I'm going to be able to save any of it or not, or like if any of this little linkagey stuff is bent or not. I don't know if it is. It's hard to tell. This is the little 5-speed star with the little pins, and I think my transmission is gonna be okay. There is some shit in the gears that I'll probably have to clean out, but I think I can reuse the 5-speed. We'll see. So yeah, an eventful day. Started off just trying to go fast on my GROM and ended at fucking late at night, all tore apart. So I don't know. You guys will have to let me know how stupid you want me to go with this thing. I don't think it was a detonation issue. Ooh. Looks like the piston or the valve did make contact on both sides. Down there, a little there. So I'll probably have to make sure that the head doesn't leak. I'm gonna change the intake manifold. Just start over, I guess. It's part of racing. Even though we're not racing, we're just riding a fucking mini bike. Same concept. Need new exhaust gasket too. Yeah, so gonna redo it all. Start over. What was I saying? About the head? I don't know. Piston? I don't think this was detonation. It's funny because I've been running the bike solely on E85 and I've never heard it rattle or anything like that. I did put 0.2 gallons of 91 octane and 0.8 gallons of E85 on this last tank that I just ran, that it blew up on. And it sounded like it rattled in the video. Like it definitely sounded like it maybe detonated a little bit or something right before it let go. It's hard to tell. I don't know if it was from heat or if it was from lack of octane or lack of fuel supply, because I'm still running the stock fuel line, fuel pump, and I'm running a decapped factory injector, which was holding pretty well. It's just when I sustain really, really high RPM, I get that engine light on the cluster for injector overuse. But the air fuel was always holding true, but maybe it didn't way up top, and that's why I let go. But honestly, I'm almost kind of glad that this thing blew up, because I'm gonna build it even stronger the next time. I was kind of skeptical on this small end of the rod when you have to bore it to put this big 223 cylinder in. I was skeptical on it, and you know, kind of shows what broke. So hopefully we can have a bigger connecting rod and a bigger small end of the rod to make this thing work. And hopefully you guys stay tuned. More bike content coming soon. I didn't really want to show this content, but here we are. It's the nature of the game. And if you're trying to go fast with a super small bike, I don't know, it's just fun. I really like it. It's fun. So have a great night and a better tomorrow, guys. We will see you later. I can't wait to get this thing back out and running. I don't even care if it's fucking negative 20 degrees outside when I get it running. I'm gonna be riding it, and we're gonna stud the tires and go rip it on the ice or something. I already miss riding it. Damn it.